Let me make this an informal discussion with Greg Johnson over dinner, where there's no pressure. You don't have to meet any standard, and the conversation is free and can go back and forth. Now, Greg Johnson has done the incredible thing. He's gotten to the point where he reads the 2040 line on his Snellen. That's objectively. Now, he's forced to use a retinoscope on everybody else because most people are difficult and you almost have to do that. However, Greg Johnson cannot measure his vision using a retinoscope. He can do it the only way that I am doing it. Use a Snellen and test lenses. Now, there's a great belief that prevention is not possible. I dispute that belief on scientific basis because I'm not part of medicine and they just can't do it. Now, you see me using a plus. And Greg Johnson is still using a minus on his Snellen. And objectively measured, it takes about a -1 to read the 2020 line. With no minus, he's reading the 2040 line. Well, the required driver's license says one eye 2040, the other eye 2060. This means for all practical purposes, he's out of myopia. So he's using, I guess, expanded visualization. You don't look at close, you look at the sky and expand your vision. He has a sight, and I totally support that. And anything that works, actually, with final verification, personally on a Snellen using test lenses. Now, I don't want to challenge Greg. I don't want to do it, but here's my suggestion. Do what I'm doing. You have all the skills, the knowledge, and perhaps the wisdom. You know where you are on your Snellen 2040, passing. Do what I'm doing. Get some plus 2.5. I know you know the optics. Push it away. So at 20 inches, you'll have just blur. A little beyond a certain point, be blurred, but that's where you find the just blur point. That gets rid of accommodation. In other words, when I have a plus on like that, my accommodation is 0 diopters. When I'm reading this with no lens, my accommodation is -2 diopters. That's why I put it plus 2.5. And that's the whole intention and purpose of wearing a plus, to prevent, to avoid, and get out of 2040, to get my refractive state to change from a negative value measured by me to a positive value, where I get to 2020, and when I get to 2020, I keep on going because I need to measure my refractive state as positive or read the 2020 line through a plus 1/2 diopter lens. So that's my discussion over dinner with Greg Johnson, suggesting he do what I do for at least 9 months a year. And he makes these measurements, but you can't do it with the retinoscope, and you can't do it with the public, and only Greg Johnson could do it. I don't know how he'll respond to this. I would like to understand, and I'm not critical, I'm not pushing him to do anything. I'm not saying don't do what I do. I give the reasons why I am doing it. And I recognize it's long term. If you're able to get to positive refraction, doing what I'm doing, that would be an incredible success for Greg and for everybody. But I don't know if he'd do this. I would like to hear what he has to say about it. I don't pressure people. I greatly admit that my habits as a child took my vision down. It's a completely normal eye where a kid does this for long periods of time. My language is a control system. I measure refractive states. Once you put a minus lens on a kid, I think his vision's gone. I don't even ask any questions beyond that point. So this is a nice video format where you're not under any pressure to do anything. But I think it would be wonderful if Greg would do what I'm doing. This is really what Jacob Rafelson did with his own children. And in effect, this is what Rupa Wong is doing with her kids when they have 20/20, which means get rid of the close work. And I mean, really disciplined. And I'm sure she is, I'm sure her kids are. That's enough for prevention, is to prevent kids doing that. So I enjoy these discussions. I do mathematical analysis, and I don't agree with standard practice. I think the language they use is convoluted and even confusing for themselves. So I wonder how, without pressure, Greg will respond to my suggestion. Why not do what I'm doing? And it just takes a while. Just getting to reading all the letters on the 20/30 or 20/25 line consistency would be a tremendous success. I think that would take about 6 months. But the ultimate result is a degree of personal success, which you will believe, and I'm sure I will believe, because I've certainly been doing it myself. Again, I thank Lamps Light. I mean, there's something in there that's just great, because I prayed for a solution when I was a kid, an engineering scientific solution. So let's see what Greg has to say about this. Be very interested. I don't pressure people to do things, but I'd like to understand, why not just do what I'm doing and see what you can accomplish. Thank you, and thank all you, what they call it, subscribers. I have great imagination, scientific imagination, engineering, but even I'm not critical of anyone medical. They really can't do anything about it. Thank you, and add your own commentary.